Hello and welcome to Undercurrent, coming to you this week from Subiaco. We've got a packed show, so we're going to get right into it. Helena Webb has been talking to Commerce Minister Simon O'Brien and Opposition Leader Eric Ripper on what they think the state government can do to improve the amount of steel manufacturing being performed right here in Western Australia.
Over $300 million worth of steel fabrication and manufacturing work is going to overseas sweatshops. The Labour Party have put forward a bill that offers to use local manufacturers as a viable alternative. Commerce Minister Simon O'Brien and Opposition Leader Eric Ripper have their say at the WA Jobs Forum.
I think the government has been complacent. I think the world has changed. Work that would have come to Western Australia in the past is not coming here now, and we need a vigorous government response. I think the government has been asleep at the wheel. Perhaps this sort of event will encourage them to step up to the plate and start taking some action.
Certainly the government's gone to sleep, and we've seen the effect. We've seen the devastating effect on the economy of businesses being overlooked for work, and the awful effect of project proponents shutting our businesses out of work, not even giving them a chance to bid for it.
The burning issues at the moment, of course, are that we do have, particularly in the steel fabrication area, workshops that are being grossly underutilised, and that's because of a lack of work that's coming to them.
If a steel mine that's based in China, that also owns steel fabrication companies in China, comes into WA and buys an iron ore mine, they tend to put all the work back home in China, and we miss out big time. That's bad for the state.
We've got a skilled local jobs bill before the Parliament. We think there should be an agreement between proponents and the government for each project valued at over $200 million, which outlines the work that will come to Western Australia. That should be a publicly available agreement, and progress reports against that agreement should also be publicly available.
At the moment we just don't know what happens, and we don't really get proper figures out of the government. They won't give us the reports. And they include some very, very rubbery figures in their reports, so we need to know what is actually happening.
Look, what we need is a greater level of involvement by government. There is a need for government to show leadership, and that's what we've been doing in the context of this issue as we've been working through it, and already we're seeing results. The major resource partners in Western Australia now understand their requirement to make sure that we do retain skilled jobs and skilled industry here in Western Australia. It's good business for them.
Well, this is about Western Australians benefiting from the resources boom. We've got a two-speed economy in Western Australia. A lot of people are missing out. What type of Western Australia is going to emerge from this extraordinary resources boom? If we're not careful, we're going to have a lot of people disadvantaged rather than advantaged by the enormous opportunities offered by this resources investment.
Look, already the West Australian government is increasingly involved. I'm intending to boost the resources that are allocated by government to this particular area of activity, because our industry does need some support at this time. We believe that as the major projects that are in the pipeline now start up and proceed to construction and operational phases, a lot of that work will be forthcoming, and our industry will have plenty of work to sustain it and to make sure that we've got skilled tradesmen of the future coming through.
Without a transparent approvals process, local businesses don't know what is going to happen. They need to know so they can invest. If they can invest, then the state grows and everybody gets a fair opportunity. But right now the process happens behind closed doors. It happens in a foreign country, so we don't know what's going to happen to our businesses in the future.
In the future, you'll be seeing more involvement by the state government in the new economic environment that everyone's working through. And I think you'll also see, I guarantee you'll see, a greater level of local industry participation here in Western Australia.
I think the government will be stirred into some action by the campaign that's going on. So far they're refusing to support our legislation. I hope we can get them across the mark. I offered the Minister a briefing on our legislation at the conclusion of today's events, and he's accepted that invitation. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I can assure you that our campaign is starting to wake the government up.
Well, we'll see what the future is for the steel industry after the debate in Parliament. I'm Helena Webb, reporting for Undercurrent.
Roadworks are a pain in the bum at the best of times, but it's the price we pay to have a relatively efficient road system. Now, St George's Terrace is the main street in the Perth Central Business District. In September 2010, construction work started to upgrade the busy road into a more pedestrian-friendly area. But at what cost? Megan Belowski reports.
The St George's Terrace upgrades have reached the halfway mark. As the north side is almost complete, major construction has begun on the south side. The aim? To transform St George's Terrace into a more vibrant, inviting area for pedestrians.
St George's Terrace is our main commercial street in the city, but it's never been one of our great streets, and it's certainly never been a place that people wanted to stay and linger and enjoy the space and the environment. And so we've put a bit of effort in, not just in St George's Terrace, but in other streets around the city, Hay Street and William Street, for example, where we've widened footpaths, improved the pedestrian environment, made some changes to traffic to make it a much better pedestrian environment. And so it was part of a sort of re-evaluation about how do we make the terrace a place that's going to be much more attractive for people to come and stay.
What is St George's Terrace going to look like once the upgrades are finished?
Well, it's going to be interesting because we've taken out a lane of traffic in each direction. St George's Terrace used to be 6 lanes in each direction, and that was built really to accommodate the peak periods in the morning and in the evening. The rest of the day there wasn't very much traffic in the streets at all, so we'd sort of over-engineered a street for what we actually required. Now, our widened footpaths also allowed the opportunity to have alfresco dining step out onto the edge of St George's Terrace in that central section, and that will be a very significant change to just how the street feels. It no longer will be a place that you just drive through and try to get out of as quickly as possible. With all these sorts of improvements and with the reaction we're already getting from some business owners and cafe owners along the terrace, we're imagining that when it opens and the new alfresco operations are up and running, it's going to be a much more interesting and lively place.
While the upgrades are improving footpaths, roads and bus lanes, cycle lanes are nowhere to be seen.
The St George's Terrace upgrade is going to affect cyclists in a big way. What they're actually doing is they're reducing it down from 3 lanes down to 2 lanes. So we're going to have buses in 1 lane, cars in another lane, and there's no room for bikes. The St George's Terrace is the main thoroughfare from the east and west directions. So any cyclist who wants to travel east and west uses St George's Terrace, and that then has an impact on how they can cycle. You're going to be competing with the buses and the cars at the same time. And that's one thing which we want to try to remove, is having that sort of interaction. And for example, if there was a cycle lane in there, the bikes would be in the cycle lanes and the cars and the buses would be in their own lanes.
Perth Bicycle Network statistics show that just over 15,000 cyclists travelled through the Perth metro area last year.
Yeah, Bicycle Transport Alliance has actually written off to the City of Perth and expressed their concerns. We've done that a couple of times, and in addition what we've been doing is we've actually been putting out black bikes around the City of Perth with signs on it indicating wherever the cycle paths in Perth. Now that's been occurring over the last 8 weeks with around about 10 bikes around the City of Perth in different locations. So we're trying to make sure that the City of Perth is aware that from a cycling perspective we've got concerns about the developments that are occurring around Perth.
Combined with the changes that we've been making to the traffic, we're also reducing the speed limit. It's not reasonable to expect that in a central city area cyclists will have sole or dedicated cycling lanes along each of those streets. But mostly if the traffic is slower, then cyclists will be able to more safely mix in with all of the other vehicles that are in the streets as well.
With all the traffic chaos already taking over the Perth CBD, we can only hope that the city traffic and cyclists don't clash on the road. Megan Belowski reporting for Undercurrent.
With the carbon tax causing heated debate amongst Australians, journalist Samantha Carwell asked the people of Perth for their opinion for this week's Vox-Pops.
On the 5th of June, the Say Yes Australia organisation will be holding a rally in support of the new carbon tax. Today we spoke to the people of Perth to find out what they think and if they will be supporting the new carbon tax. Do you support the carbon tax?
In principle I do, but not under the regime of the current government.
Nah, not really. Nah.
Oh yes, definitely, yeah.
And why do you support the carbon tax?
Yeah, the reason is like, the environment, there's, a lot of changes going on and we can't avoid. It's, so we have to act before it's too late.
No, because I reckon they're screwing us enough already.
I don't support it. I don't believe that climate change has got anything to do with carbon dioxide because it's a plant food, and I think the main trouble with the world is there are too many people.
I don't even know what the carbon tax is. Yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it's about or anything.
No, I don't support it either, and I can't see any reason for Australia going ahead and doing something like that when I don't think the rest of the world are doing anything. So we're just wasting our time and money.
Well, I think you've got to draw a line in the sand somewhere, and we've got to start protecting our environment better, and I think this is a first step which we have to take, which I think we'd probably prefer we didn't have to take for the cost, but we do have to do something.
I support the principle of the carbon tax, not necessarily it itself. In other words, I feel we all have to sacrifice something to try and get the environment under control for the future of everybody, and perhaps the tax might not be perfect, but it's a start.
I don't really support that, so I prefer not to have it actually, because we have more bills to pay and the standard of living here is nice, but it's quite expensive.
I really don't think that the carbon tax is necessary because unless our trade partners actually agree to it, then we're basically putting Australia at a disadvantage than the rest of the world. So I think it's going to be bad for Australia and bad for jobs.
Oh, I wouldn't support anything that gives us paying more tax, but in saying that, with the carbon thing, it's different, yeah. But I don't know, it's hard to say. If it's tax, it means us paying more, then I don't support it in any way.
With most people split on the issue, there are still those who struggle to understand such a complex subject. I'm Samantha Carwell for Undercurrent.
Now, if you'd like to have your say on Undercurrent, why don't you come down and see us at lunchtime on Tuesdays in the Murray Street Mall. It's where we have our Vox-Pops, and this week we're asking the question about visible tattoos, but you can have your say on virtually anything you like. We'll be right back with more Undercurrent after these messages. Now, 150 East Riverside is a great place for a business catch-up, and this week Nick Hayes speaks business with Simon Bennison, who's the CEO of the Association of Mining and Exploration Companies. They talk about the future of the industry, the mining tax, carbon tax and bad politics.
Simon, thanks for joining us. It's been a big year for AMEC and its members. How's it all going?
Yeah, a lot's been happening. We've been growing the organisation, had a lot of new membership and a totally full agenda on policy issues across the country.
The mining tax is obviously very decisive. Can your members understand why the community could be quite for the mining tax and why they're actually very pro it?
It is a complex equation, and as a consequence, trying to get people to understand that through all the current taxation system, as well as state taxes, PAYG and payroll tax and so forth, there is already a massive return, 46%. And if you start upping that much further, and that's where we're going with the original RSPT, and we still are with MRRT up around 46, but instead of being 56, we become internationally uncompetitive. For a lot of the smaller and mid-tier companies, the public have got to understand and trust the current system that there is a redistribution of the wealth and it is done fairly and equitably.
The consultation was virtually non-existent. I mean, are they consulting now? Are they talking to organisations like yourselves?
Oh, absolutely. Now that they've done the deal, so to speak, there is this process of consultation, which they're being very public about its advocacy, and we're still very keen to get the support from independents and others to make sure that if this tax finally gets its way through Parliament, that there are some serious amendments that will lessen the risk to companies and also lessen the sovereign risk to Australia in the context of reinvestment by Australian companies back into Australian resources.
Once we finish with the mining tax, we've also got now the carbon tax that we're heading down the track of. How's that going to affect your members?
Look, it's hard to tell at this stage because we just don't have any detail on the carbon tax. And that's one of the frustrating things about this government. You know, it announces a tax and you're totally left in the dark as to what it actually means to your business, because you've got no details to run through any financial modelling and understand the true implications of these taxes to your business. So all it does is up the risk, you know, that sovereign risk again, as to why would you invest in Australia under the current government and the policy arrangements that they come to.
Well, I mean, Australia had the confidence of the whole world as far as a place to go away and invest. Are we suggesting now that the rest of the world is investing with caution? We're seeing you know, key states like Queensland and Western Australia in particular drop right away from being in single figures of a good place to invest, you know, right out to the 30s, you know, as far as the ranking goes. And you know, the government's really got to understand that this is going to have an impact. And you might not see it today or tomorrow, but down the track, the fact that people aren't putting the level of investment into exploration in particular, that will come back and bite us. What are the bigger issues that are going to be facing your members, and what is AMEC going to be looking at over the next couple of years? We're seriously concerned that there will be a complication in getting some of the approvals processes through for serious infrastructure corridors. The workforce, of course, is paramount. So, you know, they're critically important to us. I mean, the tax regime, as we know, is vital, and that'll still be on our radar for some time to come. When you're not telling the federal government to lay off our taxes, what is Simon Bennison doing? I'm sort of wedded to my golf when I can get out there and do it, and the rest of the time sort of spent at home with the family and trying to keep my wife happy with her garden interests. What do you love about Perth, Simon? The lifestyle that Perth affords, you know, our population is second to none, and I think all of us who travel and get to see what's going on in the rest of the world, when we come back here, we really do better appreciate, you know, the environment we're living in.
Next, we talk to the stars of Perth's micro and small budget film industry on how it's successfully growing at the latest Perth Film Network evening.
With Perth's micro and small budget film industry growing every day, we're at the latest Film Network function to find out more and speak to some of Perth's most passionate filmmakers.
Perth Film Network basically really is bringing people together. Before, it was very much people would come into the industry, wanting to come into the industry and not have any idea where to start or where to go, and the Perth Film Network gives them an opportunity to meet other filmmakers and actors to at least get started.
I believe the film industry here in Perth, well, the micro and small budget film industry in Perth is quite strong at the moment. It's growing. It's really cheap to make films here compared to other places. There's a lot of really good talented people here in Perth, and it's an ideal place to make films.
Well, I think that there's a lot of passionate people in Perth particularly, and a lot of people willing to get out there and use their own time and resources and the little money that they can get together and do basically what they want to do.
I was just over in Cairn, and there's a lot of buzz about Perth and Western Australia out there. The government's really helping a lot, putting a lot of money in. I think the government might need to do a little bit more in terms of helping out. I mean, the producer rebate, the whole 40% cash back after shooting is quite a good initiative, but I think we need a little bit more.
Government funding's not as easy to get as it probably should be, but there seems to be a lot of kind, so there's a lot of people willing to donate their time and their own resources into making films here in Perth.
There's people around that are more than willing to put up their time or their equipment, and I kind of try to offer what I have and the resources and connections that I have around me to other people who have got the same passion as me that want to do it but they can't.
A lot of businesses are interested in funding as well, as long as they see a fantastic product that they know that they're going to get some money back from. They'll invest. Primarily, filmmaking is a business, and that's one thing that we need to teach Perth filmmakers is you need to have the product and they'll give you the money. So we're not really poor on funding here. People complain, but it is really still a business, as we keep saying.
I think if we just had a few sort of good feature films here, it would sort of kickstart the industry and get it all going. So I think that's really what we need in terms of the Perth industry, just a few big features to get it all going.
I can see it growing quite large here in Perth. Like all the time there's new people coming into the industry. I think that more productions will be made in Perth because of the cost and the locations. There's some beautiful places here to make films.
There's so much leeway for filmmakers here, because you can go to one side of the state, you've got desert, and then you've got rainforest and hills and different places, and water and beach and things like that, that you've basically got the best of everything in one area at very little cost, if not at all.
It doesn't matter what you are, whether you're a director, a producer or an actor, or you're a gaffer or animal wrangler, it doesn't really matter. You can be anything. You come down here and you sell yourself.
Anything like this where you can get like-minded people together and talk about ideas and what projects are coming up, of course that's going to help, and hopefully over time these evenings will thrive and there'll be more and more people attending, and we'll get the ideas between each other working.
At these networking functions you always see new faces, new people want to get involved, they want to know how they can help, they want to be part of it. Who doesn't want to be part of making a movie?
Now, men are notoriously bad when it comes to talking about their feelings. Christy Molliker has been fortunate enough to receive an invite to Men's Sheds, a place where guys can be themselves.
So it's no secret that us women know exactly what to do when we have a problem. We grab some of our closest mates and talk until the problem is solved. But we all know men aren't big talkers. So what do they do when they have a problem and need a little time out? Well, they escape to the shed, of course. And thankfully, a brand new organisation with exactly the same name has been helping men all over the country to bond over secret men's business and to help solve previously unspoken issues.
The Australian Men's Shed Association is a national initiative that has over 400 sheds all over the country, including more than 100 in Western Australia. From Fitzroy Crossing to Gympie in Queensland, from Hobart to Fremantle, they're popping up all over the place. Today I'm visiting the Canning District Men's Shed to see what exactly goes on here.
The Men's Shed Association has been going in some places almost 12 years, but not as a recognised organisation. We make chairs and tables and rocking horses and walking ducks and all these sorts of toys, because this basically is a woodworking shop. There are guys that come down here who want to work, who have got a little project that they do, or they want to keep busy, and there's guys who just want to stand around and talk, Once a man goes to either retires or becomes unemployed or becomes unwell and has to give up full-time employment, they often just sit at home and watch telly and nothing to do, and they're always looking for places or something to do, and this filled a rather large hole.
The Canning Shed was one of the first to be set up in the Perth metropolitan area, and with 40 members, it's going strong. President Eddie Holmes has been here from the start.
Oh, I love it. Because for the simple reason that I get a lot of joy out of seeing chaps when they first join the shed, and see how shy and backward they are, and then after a few weeks I can see them all come out of the shell, and this to me is my reward for getting a shed started. We had an old chap here, 92 years of age he was, and his carer used to bring him every morning, and he stood up at that corner there and he wouldn't come inside, he just stood there till his carer come back. And he was really going good after about 2 or 3 months, and then he didn't turn up for a few months. So I went to the carer and said, is there anything wrong with him? He says, oh, you wouldn't believe it, he's got himself a girlfriend. So this is one of the things, he would never have spoken to a woman before he come to the shed, so now 92 years of age he's got himself a girlfriend.
The success stories from the Men's Shed around Australia are many and varied.
After my forced retirement, I was a little bit isolated, so in that respect I can interact with other like-minded retirees and whatnot, and we have a laugh and a joke and generally have a good time.
Come and try it, it's superb.
There's no pressure whatsoever on you to do anything. If you want to sit down on that chair all day, you can do.
Once you retire from the workforce, it's very easy to get into a routine of just staying at home and doing a bit of gardening or pottering around at home, and you're not actually mixing, socialising with other people.
It means you can somewhere to go and you can talk amongst men, and it gives you a different outlook in life, put it that way.
This is a good little stepping stone to continue life, I suppose.
It's keeping a man interested in and moving and motivated, and got to have a reason to get up in the morning, somewhere to go, something to do. And there's an old saying that they use in the men's shed is that men don't talk face to face, they talk shoulder to shoulder.
The men's shed concept has been so successful, our PM Julia Gillard even sings its praises.
From the point of view of government, you would notice two things: the spectacular growth in the number of men's sheds, so there obviously is a demand because people want them in local communities, and with that growth has come the need for more governance, and the Australian Men's Sheds Association has achieved that, so that's given us somewhere we can go to have discussions and work out how we can support men's sheds right around the nation.
To find your local men's shed, you can visit their website, www.mensshed.org, and with their success, there's sure to be one somewhere near you. This is Christy Mollica reporting for Undercurrent.
Well, that's it for Undercurrent for this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. Now, if you've got any feedback, story ideas, or perhaps even criticism of anything you've seen tonight, get in touch with us via our website at wtvperth.com.au. We've got a discussion forum and we'd love to hear from you. We'll be back again next week. I'm Jason Jordan. Good night.